大家好, I'm Nathan Rich, aka 火锅大王. Today I'm coming to you from 鼓楼东大街, which is a drum tower street here in Beijing. It's very famous with the locals and with tourists. There's normally a lot of people, but today not too much. There's a few. Everybody's carrying on, doing what they got to do. Today I wanted to talk to you guys about the H1N1 virus and a subject called whataboutism. When you talk to many people about China and try to give them context by way of comparison with other countries, other situations, oftentimes they'll level an accusation of whataboutism. So what they're saying is that rather than addressing the issue, you're actually deflecting. I actually do address these concerns. I've gone through timelines, I've gone through how I arrive at these conclusions, and then I also use other countries and other situations as a comparison. So I don't accept people's charges of whataboutism. If somebody says this was handled improperly or this was handled in that way or whatever, I will answer it, and then I will also give some comparisons, or at least I try to do that. Now that I feel like I actually have answered a lot of how I feel about the situation with the coronavirus, I do want to talk about the H1N1 virus. Some of the first cases were found in April of 2009 in the United States. And if we take a look at the timeline, there's a few things that we notice, especially if we want to compare it to coronavirus outbreak. The first thing that I notice is that at no point did the United States quarantine any cities. And it seemed to be the case that as deaths were happening, the primary response from the United States seemed to be reporting it, cataloging it, getting statistics, getting information. There wasn't a lot of proactive activity. It's just interesting to see that that virus went on to kill upwards of potentially 500,000 people in the world. I'm not talking about infected cases, I'm talking about deaths. And yet at the time, most travel to the United States was unlimited, and personally, I didn't hear anyone at all, anyone, blaming the United States or blaming Mexico or even criticizing the speed at which the United States responded. This doesn't mean anything specific about China, but it does mean that if you want to take a rational, level-headed approach to understanding the speed of things in China, we need to be able to compare it to something. If the United States had quarantined cities rather than just quietly sampling data and gathering information, who knows how many hundreds of thousands of lives could have been saved. The US has a pretty poor track record when it comes to dealing with diseases. We know that. And China's had a relatively poor track record as well, especially with SARS. I think that there's a lot more that could have been done there. But this time around is much better than SARS. You know, in my previous video, I talked about how we can't just compare China to perfection. And I think that we should compare it to other countries in similar situations, like I said, but we should also compare China to China. This outbreak is being handled much better than the SARS outbreak was. Everyone agrees with that. Literally everyone surely must see that. When you're talking about a country and a government, they evolve very slowly. They're huge bodies. And so you need to be able to compare it to itself to see which direction is it evolving in. Is it getting better? Is it getting worse? And what we can see from so far the handling of the coronavirus is not perfect, much better than the last time, significantly better than the last time. And so that makes me hopeful. That means if this type of thing happens again, it's going to be dealt with even quicker, even better. They're going to be even better prepared for it. That makes me feel positive. It does. If you want to avoid charges of whataboutism, all you need to do is address the points that the other person is talking about and then bring contextual comparisons. And so if somebody levels a whataboutism charge to me after that, I can tell they're just being disingenuous. All they're trying to say is, we don't want to talk about that other country. We only want to talk about China. In the ongoing exchange of ideas out there in the world, on the internet, where people can be very volatile, this is one way that you can ensure that people actually are listening to your points and seeing the comparison, because that's something that's very much missing these days. So I hope that's helpful to you guys. Thanks, everybody. 谢谢。